Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist, and I help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It is in approximately 1 in 5 women, and it makes you want to break up with your partner approximately 1 to 2 weeks before your period every single month. So as someone who has suffered with PMDD for over 18 years, I dedicated my doctorate practice to helping partners navigate those monthly PMDD breakups with everything from attachment styles, triggers, sensitivity to noise, sensitivity to touch, all of the things that you really struggle with when you're in PMDD. And I also dedicated my dissertation to a phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So I'm not just here to help the sufferer, the one who is suffering with PMDD. I am here for the partners as well. So if you need those private sessions, make sure you go to inlovewithpmdd.com and get those tools. So let's get into this week's PMDD trauma transformational tools that is going to help you stop the monthly breakups and stop the suffering and stress in your PMDD relationship. Let's get into it. Today, I want to talk to you about something that a lot of PMDD partners go through, and that is rejection sensitivity within your PMDD relationship. This is when you are feeling rejected by your partner. As soon as you go into PMDD, you get a lot more emotional and you're kind of taking things that they're saying as rejection. And I know that I've been in this place so many times in my PMDD relationships where I'm assuming that my partner has rejected me, or I'm assuming that they're rejecting me when they're really not. They're actually doing behaviors that they would normally do. But all of a sudden, when I get into PMDD, I feel like I'm being rejected. I feel like I'm being ignored. I'm feeling like I'm not getting shown enough attention. I'm not getting shown enough support. And this is when you can have the person that suffers with PMDD kind of say, like, I think I want a more supportive PMDD partner, because you automatically feel like your partner is not showing you enough effort. And this is because one of the symptoms of PMDD is having this rejection sensitivity. And it is really just an intense fear of rejection. I don't know what I believe is going to happen if I get rejected, if my partner rejects me. I just think that you feel like you're unloved and you're unwanted and you're undesired. And so your heightened emotional response to that is it's as if your partner has essentially not chosen you. Or it could be a situation where you're perceiving that they're putting work in front of you, or you're perceiving that they're putting the kids in front of you, or even the animals in front of you. I know I have so many private clients where, one of their complaints is that, their job is getting more attention. Their partner is giving more attention to the job than they are them and their relationship. But it's only when you get into PMDD. I remember when I get this way, or when I got this way before, I never felt this way in my follicular days, or even in my ovulation or menstruation. I never felt like my partner wasn't giving me enough attention. But I remember instances where I would distinctly say, oh, I think, you're putting work in front of me, or you should spend more time with me. And really, I didn't really want that, meaning I didn't really feel that void, but I just felt so rejected that I was wanting something to stop it. And so I literally thought by my partner spending more time with me, that it would make this rejection sensitivity go away. I remember not even knowing that this was a thing, like the rejection sensitivity, otherwise known as RS, because I just felt like, oh, it's called being emotional or being in your feelings, or overreacting. But when I realized that it was a thing, was because a lot of my private clients were saying the same thing. My partner doesn't prioritize me. They talk to the kids or spend time with the kids more than they do me, or they only want to be with me for a certain reason. Like, you start to think that, your partner only wants to be with you because it's financially beneficial to them, or they don't really want to be with you. They're just there because it's convenient for them, because you all live together, or you cook for them, or you do their laundry. You're starting to downplay the true intentions as to why your partner is with you, because you internally feel rejected. So you can start to overreact right? Individuals who have this rejection sensitivity, they overreact to the littlest things, meaning, you could say, oh, I'm going out to eat, or I'm going to go grab something from the grocery store. And because your partner didn't invite you to go, with them, you may feel rejected. Or if you're like going to do something that you would normally do together. I mean, I think I actually, now that I'm looking back on it, I think my partner had the rejection sensitivity more than I did. And so just so you know, the partner who doesn't have PMDD can have this rejection sensitivity because um it's not limited to individuals that have PMDD. You're more susceptible to have it. But I believe my partner had rejection sensitivity when I was doing my morning routine. And I can show you what that looks like because I remember thinking to myself, I'm just doing my normal morning routine the way I always would do. But when I got into PMDD, I noticed that he started to overreact to perceived, things that I was doing, meaning if I didn't immediately text him back, he would feel rejected, or if I text back with just K, or if I didn't put like enough emojis on it, or, I used to put my phone on do not disturb. Well, I still do. I still put my phone on do not disturb in the mornings when I'm doing my morning routine. And he started to, say like, oh, you don't ever, like, it was like an over exaggeration. Like, you don't talk to me till 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I remember thinking, that's not true. Like, I literally put my phone on do not disturb for like 90 minutes to 2 hours. That's enough time for me to walk the dog, get my walk in, get my workout in, get my prayer time in, just spend some time with myself, specifically when I'm in PMDD. I do the morning routine every day, but I really, really, really have to do it when I'm in PMDD. And so he ended up getting his feelings really, really hurt. And he almost got, well, no, he did. He got angry because of my morning routine because he had this fear of abandonment, like this fear that, it led to him getting really clingy, right? So it's this pervasive fear that your partner is going to leave you. So if you know that when you go into PMDD, whether you're the one that has PMDD or your partner, and you think that your partner is all of a sudden going to leave you, you probably have that rejection sensitivity, right? This led to a lot of his clingy behavior, codependent behavior. And I don't think that it's something that he necessarily wanted to do or wanted to have, because I remember him calling and talking to me and trying to because the third thing is that constant need for reassurance. Like, he was calling me and talking to me in hopes that that rejection sensitivity would go away. So he was seeking all of this validation and this affirmation. And I'm really good at giving, words of affirmation, and I would do it, but there's almost this like unquenchable thirst. You almost feel like you can't get enough. Like, what your partner's giving you is not enough. You keep seeking for it. So a lot of times he would, even say to me, it's like, I know I'm being clingy. I know, because he could feel himself do it and I could feel him do it. And it's almost like it didn't matter what I said, that constant need for reassurance was there. But where that comes from when you have rejection sensitivity is that you internally believe within yourself, like outside of your partner, that you're not valued and you're not loved. You have that internal belief within yourself. So when you get into a relationship, then that gets exasperated. It's made bigger because you're constantly wanting your partner to reaffirm you and let you know that you're loved, let you know that you're cared for. And you may think to yourself, like, oh, that's normal. Everybody wants to get in relationships and feel like they're loved and valued and things like that. But when you have rejection sensitivity, it's almost like you have that, like I said before, unquenchable thirst. It's not a normal need for it's not a normal need for reassurance. It's not just like you say, I love you. It's like they want to hear it again and again and again. And it's almost like no matter what the partner says or does, there's still that need there. And so the partner that doesn't have rejection sensitivity starts to feel a little bit helpless, because you're like, what more can I give you? I remember thinking that. I remember, adjusting my schedule and making sure that I was sending text messages and making sure that I was making him feel loved. But I could tell that it wasn't enough. And that's because when you have rejection sensitivity, it's really what you internally believe yourself. So it wasn't really my job or I just wasn't capable of giving the kind of validation that he needed, because once that wore off, he was just going to have it again. And so your partner or you may be the same way, where your partner says that they love you, they said that they care about you, all these things, but you still feel like it's not enough. You still feel like you need to see it. Um, and a lot of times, what that can look like is the mood swings, right? So your mood, when you have rejection sensitivity, your mood changes. Um, and it can go from, where you're essentially love bombing them, like you're giving them all of this love, this attention, this validation. So you're love bombing your partner in hopes that that rejection sensitivity goes away. And so they're happy. And then as soon as you go to do whatever it is that you were doing before, there's a change in your partner's behavior, because you're not continuously giving them that tension, that constant, affection, that constant validation, that constant affirmation. As soon as you take your foot off the pedal and you stop giving it to them, their mood can completely shift, and they can start to get moody and angry and irritable, and even shut down. And you may begin to think like, what more can I give you? And so if you're in PMDD, you may begin to feel like it's overwhelming. Like what your partner is asking you for is so overwhelming, because you don't have the energy within you to manage your moods, your symptoms, and their rejection sensitivity. So what this leads to is a lot of conflict. I know for us, it was a lot of fights, a lot of misunderstanding, bringing up, issues, old issues in the past, because for the individual that has um, rejection sensitivity, they don't want to talk about their true feelings. They don't even want to admit that they're feeling as insecure as they're feeling, right? This is going to lead to you really having conflict, because you know that there's something going on. You know that there's something going on with them, and you may want to talk about it, but they don't want to talk about it. All they want you to do is talk about the good times. All they want you to do is compliment them, to consistently praise them. They don't want to talk about the root of the issue as to why they need this constant, level of affection. And they may even minimize it and say, oh, like everybody needs affection from their partner, or everybody needs attention from their partner. They can downplay how excessive their requests are, and make it seem like you're the problem because you have an issue with giving, you know, your partner love and attention and validation. And they may say, is it really so hard for you to love your partner? Is it really so hard for you to talk nicely to your partner? Like they can minimize it as if you haven't already tried. And this is where we get into those high levels of criticism, right? They may start to criticize the things that you're doing, telling you that you're not being a good partner, telling you that you should be doing, more. And the reality is, a person who has rejection sensitivity, they're hurt because they're feeling rejected. They're feeling like the things that you're doing is showing that you don't love them, that you don't value them. And they can start to compare at that point. They can start to compare and say, if I was with another person internally, right? Internally or externally, they can start to compare and say, if I was with someone else, I bet I would be getting the treatment that I want. They may start to use PMDD as a scapegoat and say, oh, the reason why you're not giving me the love and affection and attention that I need is because you're in PMDD, right? And so that means they're over analyzing your interactions. So this used to happen a lot with me, where my partner would read my facial expressions, read my body language, and start to criticize me based off of that. Like when I go into PMDD, I do like I just stare into the abyss. I frequently do this. I like zone out and stare into nothingness, specifically when I'm in the car, or sometimes even when I'm in the house and I'm not really doing anything. I don't even have to have the TV on. Like my daughter has walked in and be like, are you okay? It's like I'm just sitting there and I'm staring into nothing, and I'm completely content doing it. Like it's nothing really wrong with me. I know, it's not a normal behavior, but when I'm in PMDD, it is a normal behavior. And it's almost giving my brain a break to be able to disassociate, and just it's meditative. But when I would be in that state before, my partner would say, oh, there's something wrong with you, or look at you, you're going internal, right? It's over analyzing the interactions of your partner's words and actions. So if I start answering, his questions, when you go into PMDD, at least for me, I used to get an avoidant attachment style. And so my text messaging would be very bland when I was in PMDD. I'd be like, I'm fine, I'm good, it's good. This is this, like there would be no expression, very little emojis, like all of the things. And so instead of just recognizing like, oh, they're just, feeling monotone because they're in PMDD, because he had rejection sensitivity, he felt rejected, that he wasn't getting the text messages with the emojis that made him feel loved and, validated and giving all that attention. It was a thing. So because I communicated differently when I was in PMDD, it made my partner overanalyze my interactions because he felt rejected. He had RS, he had rejection sensitivity. So you could make up stories in your mind about why your partner is, saying these things or not saying these things, or why your partner is doing these things or not doing these things, because it's a sign of rejection, even if nothing exists. Like when I would, another example was when I would pick up my partner from the airport, he would always say whenever I was in PMDD that I wasn't being open and loving, like with my facial expressions or with my body language when we were in the car on the ride home. And I think when you feel that rejection sensitivity, he was expecting a different reaction. He was expecting me to be smiling and super happy and all of these things. And I know what you may be thinking. You may be like, well, that's normal. If you haven't seen your partner in a week or so, you should be like that. But when I went into PMDD, I just was very like monotone, like I go internal, and he would overanalyze that because he felt rejected, because he had that rejection sensitivity. So it was like creating a story in his mind, like, oh, she doesn't love me, she doesn't care about me, like all of these things that he was probably thinking, when in reality, I was just being that way because that's my PMDD personality sometimes. And maybe I was internally suffering a little bit and just trying to process things, but it never had to do with not loving my partner, not caring for them, not adoring them, not being happy that they were there. But when you have PMDD, sometimes your body language and your actions and your words don't really come off the way that you intend them to, and your partner can get triggered by that and they can start to feel rejected by it. And that's when the rejection sensitivity really sets in, because they get so offended. It's almost like you've intentionally done something to them by not being the persona that they are expecting. So they feel rejected. And the next way that this can impact your PMDD relationship is, there's a lot of jealousy and insecurity. And I've dealt with this as well, where I could be doing pretty much nothing, going to the movies by myself. Like I do, I've talked about it a lot in the past, where I'm an ambivert. Like I love being out and about, but I don't necessarily have to be with people. And so my partner knows that. So when I used to say I was doing stuff alone, there's always this jealous and this insecurity because he felt rejected. That when you feel rejected, you feel like you're going to get replaced by somebody else. So even if I showed pictures of, me with coworkers or things like that, it's like it's like the question of who is that? Who is that in the picture? Like if there was like another guy there, or if I was going to do something. When you have rejection sensitivity, even things like coworkers, friends, you feel like you're going to get replaced. So you feel like somebody else could take your place. So you automatically start to get jealous and insecure, and your actions start to show that. And that can be very triggering. At least I know it was for me when I was in PMDD, because I wasn't necessarily doing anything, but I kept getting accused of doing something. And I really just felt like, man, I'm not doing anything. It's really, it makes you feel like it's hard to just exist. You feel all of this pressure to be a certain way when you're in PMDD, so that your partner doesn't have that rejection sensitivity, so that you don't have to deal with the behavior that comes after that. I remember thinking that, like, hey, just be open and loving. I used to have to tell myself that. That's actually how I developed the JBL method that I use with so many of my private clients, is just be loving. Because I used to literally think, if I just be loving towards my partner, then maybe it'll help this rejection sensitivity go away. But what happens is because they fear getting rejected by you, their partner, the person that they love and adore the most, they find it hard to really trust you because they think that you're going to do something shady. They think you're going to do something behind their back. And so they constantly start to question your loyalty. They start to question your intentions. And for me, that was a really big trigger, again, because when you attack my character or you make me overly explain myself, it almost makes me feel like you think I'm a bad person that's capable of doing things that are out of character. It almost makes me feel like you don't know me. Like if you know me, and everybody who knows me knows that I wouldn't cheat on my partner, knows that I wouldn't be unfaithful. But the way that I was being questioned by my partner was as if I had done it in the past to them, and I was having to prove myself to my partner. And I was going through all of these things, and it felt like I felt helpless because I felt like no matter what I do, my partner was going to be testing me. So that's the next way it can show up in your PMDD relationship, where you feel like they're testing your love and commitment. So they create situations that force you as the partner to prove your loyalty to them, prove your dedication to them. And a lot of times they're doing this unconsciously, but they're putting you in situations where you have to overly give them that attention, affection, and validation just because they want to be shown that, you really want to be with them and you're not rejecting them, and that you're not going to throw them away. And what ends up happening is sometimes when they go into that mode of trying not to be rejected, like they're so scared that they're going to be rejected, they can start to withdraw from you emotionally. They can start to live their life as if you've already like rejected them. So basically, they're starting to be more independent. They withdraw emotionally or physically from the relationship. And it leads to like a lot of disconnection because they're almost thinking like, well, they're going to dump me anyway, or they're going to break up with me anyway. And it shows whenever you have conflict, because it comes out when they just say to you, so what are we going to break up? Like everything becomes a breakup. When you have that rejection sensitivity, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so another thing that, and I've seen this, I've experienced this myself, and then I've also seen it a lot with private clients, is to avoid being rejected. They may start to reject you first. They may start to pull away from you first, or they may start to sabotage the relationship. They may start to talk about you breaking up before you've even broken up. This has genuinely happened to me where they're like, oh, you were going to break up anyway, or oh, with my next partner. Like they're starting to talk as if you've broken up with them because they're thinking it's inevitable. And what I notice is it's really a self-fulfilling prophecy, because look at my situation. My partner talked about breaking up throughout the entire relationship from the beginning to the end. And then when the end happened and I actually broke up, it was almost a shock that it had finally happened. Sometimes it's almost a relief for your partner, because it's like they're holding their breath for the moment that you break up with them. And then when you finally do, it's like a shock, but then it's like, yeah, I knew it was going to happen. Like, I knew it, man. I knew it, man. I knew she was going to break up with me. I knew she was going to end it. Like, that's the way they'll start to talk to their friends, because in their mind, they already had this deep rooted fear that you were going to leave them. And a lot of this has to do with self-worth, which is where the insecurity comes in. If they feel like, and I've seen this with private clients, if they feel like they pretty much dated out of their league, like it's different, because you'll have partners that say they want a certain kind of partner. I want a successful partner. I want a beautiful partner. I want a caring partner. I want a partner with good morals and values and a good heart and all of these things. And then you finally get it. But if you feel like you don't deserve it, you end up sabotaging it. And that's exactly what happened. And that's exactly what happens, because you get into that mindset and you have those intrusive thoughts that are telling you she's going to break up with you. She's going to leave you. She's going to leave you. Especially if you're the one that has PMDD and you have this rejection sensitivity, you listen to those intrusive thoughts and it's going to keep telling you they're going to leave you. They're going to leave you. And you start to grip the relationship so hard. You start to hold on to your partner so hard that they start to pull away from you. That is exactly what happened to me. I felt like I was being suffocated. I felt like it wasn't a normal sense of oh, I'm being loving and caring and open, and I'm getting love and attention and affection from my partner. It was overbearing because I felt like I was getting claustrophobic because I could feel the pull. When my partner used to get clingy, I could feel it, and it was so overwhelming for me, and it was also so unattractive to me. And that's another thing that your partner will probably never tell you, but I will tell you that when you're being clingy with your partner, it is not they're not attracted to that. Nobody's attracted to being put in a box. Nobody's attracted. But I remember I used to say to myself, oh, when I get with someone, I want someone who's obsessed with me. I will never say that again because with the obsession comes the jealousy, comes the insecurity. Obsession, I thought was like undying, unwavering loyalty. And that's what I wanted. I wanted someone that was so loyal that I really didn't have to worry about them. I didn't have to like second guess their intentions or anything like that. And that's what I got in my partner. But I also got a lot of jealousy and a lot of insecurities. And it's a lot when you're trying to manage that. So individuals who have this rejection sensitivity, they have low self-esteem. They have a poor image of themselves. They feel like they're unworthy of the love that you have to give them. They don't feel that they're deserving of, what you have to give. And it fuels their fear of rejection. They feel like they're not good enough. They feel like they have to do more. So this can show up where they start excessively buying you a lot of gifts. They may start to, they're trying to overcompensate in other areas. And again, they can be doing this subconsciously. Like if I buy her a gift, if I buy her really expensive things, then I'll feel like I deserve her. I'll feel like I'm worthy of her because I'll feel like I'm taking care of her. I feel like I'm giving her what it is that she desires. Maybe it's a partner who wants to pay all the bills. Like they want to pay all the bills so that they can prove that they deserve you. So it'll help them not have that rejection sensitivity. It's like when you think about the five love languages and you have words and physical touch, they may want to be overly intimate with you. Like if they're, especially if they're a good lover, they may say, oh, I want to, they may be having sex with you for the purpose of feeling like they're worthy of you. Like they're wanting to have sex in a way that is pleasing you, right? If they're, and again, this can look like a normal thing. This can look like a giving thing. But if you notice that that when you're having sex with your partner that they're trying to prove something, I've seen this so many times, I've experienced this so many times where it's not even about you, it's about proving something to themselves, right? It's like if I can make my partner orgasm, if I can do this, then I deserve them. Like this is what they're telling themselves. They're not doing it for the sake of connecting with you and pleasing you. They're doing it to make themselves feel better about being with you because they're the ones that are giving you the orgasm. They're the ones that are making you feel good. And so you can even feel the disconnection sometimes where you're having sex and you're looking at them and you're trying to connect and they're in their own little world because they're so focused on the mission at hand that they're not really using the intimacy, the having sex for the purpose of what it's supposed to be. So even though you're being physically intimate, the connection is not there, the intimacy is not there, and then it becomes less desirable for the other person because it's like, who are you trying to prove this to? Like, did I have an orgasm? Yes. Was it amazing? Yes. But do I feel connected to you? Absolutely not. So they're misconstruing what the real goal should be, which is to connect with you, but it's for the sole purpose of easing that rejection sensitivity. And so a lot of times when they're in that mode of feeling rejected, they do the catastrophizing, right? It's their it's when they catastrophizing is when you do this thing in your brain where you keep repeating the worst case scenario again and again and again. Right. You're either doing it a couple ways. You're doing the scatter plot way where you're circling, where you're saying they're gonna leave me, they're gonna leave me, they're gonna leave me. Like you keep telling yourself that because and it's what you feel like is being playing in your mind again and again and again. You don't feel safe, you feel a lot of fear, you feel scared. You always feel like you have to be on edge. You're super hyper vigilant because you're always feeling like you're one day away, 1 second away, one moment away from losing your partner. And the next way that you can catastrophize when you have rejection sensitivity is you tell yourself a story. So one thing happens, you as the partner who doesn't have rejection sensitivity said that they're going to the store. Well, you start making up a whole scenario in your mind about what's going to happen when they go to the store. They're going to see someone that's going to help them. They're going to find that person attractive. They're going to like laugh and joke with that person. Then they're going to get their number, and then they're going to start texting behind your back. And then they're going to plan their escape to leave you. And then you're going to be single. And then they're going to take the dog and the kids. And you're catastrophizing by creating a whole story in your mind based off of one action, which is your partner's going to the store. Because you're fearing that rejection, you're fearing that breakup. You just need to make sense of it in your mind about how it's going to happen. It's almost like it's not a question of if it's going to happen. It's a question of when is it going to happen? When is my partner going to break up with me? And a lot of times you can get rejection sensitivity when I'm talking to you about RS from having those PMDD monthly breakups. If you have PMDD and you threaten to break up with your partner so many times, they could start to develop rejection sensitivity because now you planted that seed in their mind. And now they're feeling like now it's going to happen any day now, any day now, any day now. So maybe your partner didn't originally have rejection sensitivity, but because you've broken up with them so many times or threatened to break up with them so many times, they now have it. And so relationships who have this rejection sensitivity in it, they're viewed in really, really big extremes, such as everything is black and white, right? Things are really, really good in the follicular phase, and then they're really, really bad. And that's so easy to happen in PMDD because you're either really, really connected with your partner while you're in your follicular days, and then you go into PMDD and they immediately, their rejection sensitivity is ignited. They feel calm, they feel safe, they feel secure. So they may not be exuding any of these symptoms of rejection sensitivity in your follicular phase because you're freely giving them the affection, the attention, the validation that they need. But as soon as your mood shifts, when you go into PMDD, now all of a sudden they're back on. And all of the symptoms that I just told you about start to come out. And this is where a lot of the fights come out in your relationship and a lot of the PMDD monthly breakups, because you start to feel like, I can't take this anymore. Like one or the both of you say, I can't take this anymore, and choose to end the relationship. So now that you know what rejection sensitivity looks like, what I do with my private clients when I'm working with them through this is really understanding the root of why you feel like you're not worth being with your PMDD partner. Is this because you've threatened breaking up, or they've threatened breaking up with you before? Or is this something that's internal? Like if you come into a relationship and you have past relationship trauma where you've been cheated on, like a lot of my exes have, they've been cheated on in the past. And so when they came into the relationship, they're almost expecting that it's going to happen again, even if they chose a person that is, has really good morals and values, which is one of the reasons why my partner had said that he chose to marry me, was because I had, a spiritual background where I was being loyal and being faithful, not just because that's, how I thought about relationships, but also my relationship with God. He's like, well, she's not going to cheat on me because she has a relationship with God. Like there was some kind of security, but even in that instance, there was still jealousy and insecurity. And we had to get to the bottom of where that comes from and creating that safety and that security, because until you do that, you're going to continuously have these issues in your relationship when you go into PMDD and your mood shifts, and then the rejection sensitivity comes out. So the tool that I have for this particular, instance, rejection sensitivity, is really having those private sessions to rewire your PMDD brain, rewire your brain, even if you're the one that doesn't have PMDD, to get to the root of it and to really work through what we can do when we get into those places of feeling insecure and feeling jealous, and having other outlets that don't put so much pressure on your partner to where you're pushing them away. Because ultimately, that's what happens. Those behaviors push your partner away. And what you're actually wanting is your partner to be closer to you, but you're actually making them go further away from you and want to disconnect because it becomes so overwhelming that they feel like they can't handle it anymore. So if that's something that that you need help with, then I want you to go to my website, unloved.pmdd.com, book those private sessions, and really get to the bottom of why you're feeling like you have rejection sensitivity or why your partner has rejection sensitivity. Because until you get to the bottom of it, it's going to keep showing up in your PMDD relationship, especially when you go into your luteal phase. And then you're going to get like a break when you go into your follicular phase, but you're going to keep going back and forth. And that cycle is going to be so exhausting. I've seen it so many times. I felt it so many times where I felt like I knew it was coming. I had anxiety. I'm like, oh, he's about to get clingy. Up, here we go. Everything I do, he's about to start picking at me. Like, that's what I felt like. I felt like my partner was picking at me like a little, like I was in school and constantly telling me, you're not doing this right. You're not doing this right. And you start to feel like, well, I guess I can't do anything right. So you almost stop giving them that level of attention, affection, and validation because you're not getting credit for it, because they're still pulling at you and pulling at you like it's not enough, even if you have pure intentions and you do love them and you do care about them. Because of that deep-rooted jealous and insecurity and all of that going on in their mind with the intrusive thoughts, then they can't receive it until they get to the root about why that rejection sensitivity is there in the first case. So until next episode, we got this. Love you. I hope this PMDD episode helped you and your partner in your struggles within your relationship. And if this is something that you know that you need help with and you need further support, individualized support, make sure you're going to inlovewithpmdd.com and you're getting those private sessions to really work through what you're going through in your relationship, specifically in regards to PMDD. And also, I want you to leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. What this does is it helps other PMDD sufferers and partners find this show that can help them get these free PMDD relationship tools. I remember what it felt like to not know that there were tools out there specifically for PMDD relationships. So I want to make sure that you are sharing these tools with others, share them on your social media, share them with people that you know that are also struggling in their PMDD relationships. Until next episode, this is Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist. One more thing, I almost forgot. I now have the Fresh Start PMDD Partners Workbook. What this workbook can do is if you've had past traumatic experiences with your partner, past fights, past arguments, and they keep coming up every single month in PMDD, I created a Fresh Start Workbook so that you can deal with all of the traumatic experiences that have happened in the past in PMDD rage and all of these things so you can stop going through the same cycle again and again and again. So get that workbook. It comes with a video episode of the actual podcast that I recorded on getting a fresh start in your PMDD relationship. So you're not continuing the same cycle again and again and again. So make sure that you get that workbook. And if you need those individualized counseling sessions, you know where to go, inlovewithpmdd.com. Until next time, we got this. Love you.